If you dismissed budget motorcycles as starter bikes over the last 5 years, you missed one of the most profitable opportunities in the power sports market. And you're not the only one. Right now, while premium bike owners watch their $20,000 machines depreciate 40% in 3 years, smart riders who bought these 4 cheap models are sitting on appreciating assets. Motorcycle analysts are calling this the sleeper revolution. Bikes originally priced under $8,000 now commanding $12,000 plus on the used market. This happened because manufacturers focused on flagship models while accidentally creating modern classics. We're talking about 150% return rates that make most investments look ordinary. So if you're still chasing brand prestige over actual value, here's what the data reveals about 4 motorcycles that transform from overlooked to essential. Subscribe now for more insider market analysis that could save you thousands. But before we start, what motorcycle do you think will be the next sleeper investment? Drop your prediction below. Number 4. The Honda ST1300. The golden age of practical engineering gave us machines that seem almost mythical by today's standards. During the 1990s and early 2000s, Honda's engineering teams operated with a freedom we can barely comprehend today. The ST1300 emerged from this era as perhaps the most over-engineered touring platform ever created. What makes this particularly remarkable is how Honda prioritized durability over profit margins in ways that would be considered financial suicide by today's shareholders. The ST1300's longitudinal V4 engine represents everything that's missing from modern motorcycle design. This configuration provided turbine-like smoothness while eliminating the complexity that plagues modern tourers. Engineers weren't forced to add power-robbing balance shafts or compensatory electronics. They simply designed the mechanical system correctly from the ground up. The result was an engine that routinely delivers 200,000 plus miles without major service, a claim virtually no modern touring bike can make with a straight face. What the data shows is particularly revealing. When the California Highway Patrol conducted their infamous 100,000-mile durability tests, the ST1300 outperformed every competitor, including BMW models, costing nearly twice as much. Maintenance records revealed ST1300ES required 60% less in service costs compared to the nearest premium competitor. This wasn't marketing hype. This was fleet data from organizations that can't afford downtime. The simplicity advantage became even more apparent as motorcycles entered the electronic era. While the ST1300 featured basic fuel injection, it avoided the feature creep epidemic that later drove costs up and reliability down. No multiple riding modes, no TFT screens, and no electronically controlled suspension to fail at the worst possible moment. Just mechanical excellence that could be maintained virtually anywhere on the planet due to Honda's global parts network. When production ended, something unusual happened. Rather than depreciate like most discontinued models, ST1300 values began climbing. Police departments, which had been quietly hoarding these machines for their fleets, suddenly found themselves competing with private buyers who discovered the secret. Today, clean examples command 50 to 80% more than their original MSRP, with police department surplus models fetching premium prices despite high mileage. A complete inversion of traditional motorcycle valuation. Number 3. The Kawasaki KLR650. If there's a motorcycle that epitomizes the victory of substance over marketing hype, it's the Kawasaki KLR650. When it debuted, no focus groups were consulted about its aesthetics. No marketing teams strategized its market positioning. Kawasaki simply built a motorcycle that could go anywhere, be repaired with basic tools, and outlast its owners. The engineering philosophy behind the KLR650 seems almost quaint by today's standards. Its single-cylinder engine featured just enough technology to be reliable without any superfluous complexity. There were no ride modes, no advanced electronics, and nothing that couldn't be diagnosed with basic mechanical knowledge. This approach created a motorcycle that could be repaired in remote locations with minimal tools, a feature that no amount of electronic wizardry can replicate. The global adventure riding community discovered what military units and border patrol agencies had already known. The KLR650 offered capabilities that far exceeded its humble price point. The 2008 to 2018 models in particular hit a perfect sweet spot of refinement without unnecessary complexity. Riders completing transcontinental journeys consistently reported lowering me. reported lower maintenance issues than those on premium adventure bikes costing 3 times as much. The maintenance cost comparison is particularly revealing. While BMW R1250 GS owners were paying upwards of $1,500 for routine valve adjustments requiring specialized equipment, KLR650 owners spent under $200 for the same service that could be performed in any basic garage. This 87% cost differential, multiplied across years of ownership, created a total cost of ownership advantage that the market eventually couldn't ignore. When Kawasaki temporarily discontinued the KLR650 in 2018, the market responded in a way that shocked even veteran industry analysts. Clean, well-maintained examples began commanding prices 30% above their original MSRP. By 2023, low-mileage 2008 to 2018 models were selling for nearly double their original price, a phenomenon virtually unheard of for non-collectible motorcycles. The international market response was even more dramatic, with US models being purchased and shipped to South America, Africa, and Australia at significant premiums. The KLR650's value proposition wasn't just about initial purchase price, it was about the total economics of ownership. Insurance companies classified it in lower risk categories than premium adventure bikes, resulting in annual premiums often 40 to 60% lower. Parts availability remained exceptional even after production paused, with aftermarket support actually expanding rather than contracting. For global travelers, this meant the difference between a quick roadside repair and being stranded for weeks waiting for proprietary parts. Number 2. The Suzuki SV650. Perhaps no motorcycle better illustrates the industry's collective mistake than the Suzuki SV650. Introduced as an entry-level model, this V-twin roadster delivered a riding experience that embarrassed machines costing twice as much. Engineering teams at Suzuki created what many consider the perfect balance of performance, reliability, and accessibility, then watched as marketing departments failed to recognize what they had built. The SV650's V-twin engine represents a masterclass in motorcycle design. By utilizing a 90-degree V configuration, engineers eliminated the need for complex balancing mechanisms that rob power and introduce failure points. The result was an engine that delivered near-perfect primary balance, exceptional torque characteristics, and reliability that bordered on the mythical. Documented cases of SV650s exceeding 150,000 miles with only basic maintenance became common, creating a reputation that spread primarily through rider experience rather than marketing campaigns. The performance data reveals why the SV650 developed its cult following. When tested against premium naked bikes from European manufacturers, the SV650 consistently delivered 90 to 95% of the performance at 40 to 50% of the price. Track day organizations reported that SV650s often outpaced much more expensive machinery in the hands of skilled riders, leading to the bike becoming a staple in amateur racing circles. This real-world performance advantage created a knowledge gap between informed riders and those who relied solely on manufacturer marketing. The SV650's simplicity advantage became even more apparent as motorcycles entered the electronic era. While competitors added increasingly complex electronic systems that required specialized diagnostic equipment, the SV650 remained refreshingly straightforward. Basic fuel injection, simple instrumentation, and mechanical systems that could be maintained with common tools meant that ownership costs stayed remarkably stable while competitors' maintenance expenses skyrocketed. When Suzuki temporarily shifted away from the original SV650 concept with the Gladius and later SFV650 models, the market delivered its verdict through resale values. Original SV650 models, particularly the second generation 2003 to 2009 fuel-injected versions, began appreciating while the newer models depreciated. By 2022, clean examples of the second generation SV650 were selling for 40 to 60% more than their original MSRP, with particularly well-maintained examples commanding even higher premiums. The hidden value proposition extended beyond just purchase price and maintenance. Insurance companies, using their vast accident and repair databases, classified the SV650 in lower risk and cost categories than its premium competitors. This resulted in annual insurance savings of $300 to $600 for many riders, an amount that, compounded over years of ownership, represented thousands in additional value that never appeared in simple purchase price comparisons. Number 1. The Yamaha FZ6. The Yamaha FZ6 represents perhaps the clearest example of engineering excellence, triumphing over marketing limitations. Essentially, housing a detuned R6 engine in a practical chassis, Yamaha created a motorcycle that delivered 80% of supersport performance, with 200% of the practicality, all while being marketed as a modest commuter option. The engineering brilliance behind the FZ6 is found in its engine. By taking the high-performance R6 power plant and retuning it for mid-range torque, Yamaha's engineers created an engine that delivered exhilarating performance while extending service intervals and component lifespan significantly. Where the R6 required valve adjustments every 24,000 miles, the FZ6 routinely went 50,000 plus miles before needing the same service, all while delivering performance that embarrassed many dedicated sport bikes. The performance data tells a revealing story that marketing brochures never captured. When tested against dedicated sport bikes of its era, the FZ6 delivered 0 to 60 times within half a second of machines classified and priced as pure sports bikes. More importantly, in real-world riding environments with varying road conditions, the FZ6's more tractable power delivery and comfortable ergonomics actually allowed riders to make faster progress than on more premium options. The FZ6's simplicity advantage followed the pattern we've seen with our other models. While featuring fuel injection and basic digital instrumentation, it avoided the feature creep that plagued later generations of motorcycles. No riding modes to malfunction, no electronically adjusted suspension to fail, and no proprietary diagnostic systems required for basic maintenance. Just mechanical excellence that could be maintained by owners with moderate technical skills and basic tools. When Yamaha replaced the FZ6 with increasingly complex and electronically dependent models, the market eventually recognized what had been lost. By 2020, clean examples of 2004 to 2009 FZ6 models began commanding prices approaching their original MSRP, an almost unheard of phenomenon for Japanese motorcycles of this class. By 2023, exceptional low-mileage examples were selling for 20 to 30% above their original sales price, with particularly well-maintained examples fetching even higher premiums. The hidden value proposition extended far beyond purchase price. Insurance companies classified the FZ6 in lower premium categories than its actual performance would suggest, resulting in annual savings of $200 to $400 for many riders compared to dedicated sport bikes offering similar acceleration and handling. Maintenance costs remained approximately 65% lower than on more complex machines, with parts availability remaining excellent due to Yamaha's global supply network and the model's substantial production numbers. As we entered the 2000s, a fundamental shift occurred across the motorcycle industry. Engineering departments that once led product development found themselves increasingly subordinate to marketing teams and financial controllers. This transition manifested in several troubling ways that directly impacted the motorcycles being produced. The feature creep epidemic began gradually, but accelerated with alarming speed. Manufacturers, seeking ways to justify price increases and drive upgrade cycles, added electronic systems with minimal real-world benefits. TFT screens replaced reliable analog gauges. Multiple riding modes appeared on bikes that functioned perfectly well, with a single well-engineered throttle response. Traction control systems were added to machines that had previously relied on well-designed chassis and suspension geometry. These features weren't free. They came at the cost of complexity, reliability, and maintenance expenses. Financial data reveals how dramatically the depreciation landscape changed. Where our four highlighted models maintained 70 to 80% of their value after 3 years of ownership, new models featuring the latest electronic packages typically lost 50 to 60% in the same period. Finance terms stretched from the traditional 3 to 4 years to 6 to 7 years, as manufacturers attempted to mask the impact of rising prices through lower monthly payments. This created a negative equity trap many buyers only discovered when attempting to trade in their machines. The reliability crisis emerged as the natural consequence of prioritizing features over fundamental engineering. Modern motorcycles increasingly require dealer-only diagnostic equipment for even basic troubleshooting. Electronic failures that could completely disable otherwise mechanically sound motorcycles became commonplace. Parts availability shifted from global to regional, with proprietary components often available only through official dealer networks at premium prices. Consumer confusion reached unprecedented levels as marketing departments masterfully shifted the conversation from reliability and value to specification comparisons that favored newer models. Social media influencers, often compensated through manufacturer partnerships, promoted the latest models, while experienced mechanics and long-distance riders quietly maintained and praised the previous generation's machines. The motorcycle industry's collective mistake became evident as manufacturers systematically discontinued their most reliable platforms in favor of more complex, feature-rich replacements. This strategic error occurred across multiple brands almost simultaneously, creating a market vacuum that would later drive the value increase of our four highlighted models. The premium push strategy reflected a fundamental misunderstanding of motorcycle economics. Manufacturers believed that higher prices automatically translated to higher profits, failing to recognize that their customer base operated with finite budgets. By eliminating budget options, they didn't force customers into expensive tiers as anticipated. Instead, they pushed many potential buyers into the used market or out of motorcycling altogether. The technology obsession manifested in designs that prioritized electronic features over mechanical reliability. Functions that had previously been handled through elegant mechanical solutions were replaced with electronic systems requiring specialized diagnostic equipment. This created a dependency on dealer networks that fundamentally altered the ownership experience, particularly for riders in remote areas or those who traveled internationally. Perhaps most concerning was the shift to marketing-led design philosophies. Styling changes driven by two-year product cycles replaced engineering improvements that previously occurred when actual advancements had been developed. Specification sheet comparisons became the primary marketing tool, emphasizing peak horsepower figures and electronic feature counts over usability and reliability. Focus groups and market researchers increasingly influenced design decisions previously made by experienced engineers with intimate knowledge of mechanical systems. As these industry changes accelerated, an interesting counter-movement began taking shape. Experienced riders, mechanics, and fleet managers started sharing real-world data that contradicted manufacturer marketing narratives. This information exchange, facilitated by online forums and social media groups, created an informed buyer segment that recognized the value proposition our four highlighted models represented. The awakening of informed buyers began with maintenance cost comparisons. Professional mechanics and DIY owners documented dramatic cost differences between maintaining older, simpler designs versus newer, feature-laden models. These weren't small differences. Diagnostic fees alone for electronic issues on newer models often exceeded the entire maintenance budget for our highlighted bikes. When shared across rider communities, this information created a knowledge advantage for informed buyers. The depreciation reality check became impossible to ignore as the used market data accumulated. While $20,000 flagship models routinely depreciated to under $10,000 within 3 years, our highlighted models maintained most of their value and in many cases began appreciating. Insurance companies, working from accident and repair databases, adjusted their premiums to reflect the true cost of ownership, further widening the economic gap between marketing darlings and practical classics. The maintenance cost explosion created perhaps the most dramatic market response. As newer models required increasingly expensive specialized tools and dealer-only diagnostics, the total ownership equation shifted dramatically. Modern motorcycles frequently required $500 plus in diagnostic fees before repair work even began, while proprietary replacement parts commanded markups of 200 to 300% over generic alternatives. Software updates, once a rarity in the motorcycle world, became mandatory for basic functionality on newer machines. Perhaps most damaging to the premium model narrative was the exposure of the performance myth. Dyno tests consistently showed that older, simpler designs often matched or exceeded the real-world performance of their more expensive, electronically enhanced replacements. Track day results repeatedly demonstrated that rider skill remained the dominant factor in performance, not electronic rider aids. Even fuel economy comparisons typically favored simpler engine designs unburdened by emissions equipment that often reduced efficiency while increasing complexity. The market correction we're witnessing represents one of the most significant value migrations in modern motorcycle history. Used prices for our highlighted models have increased 50 to 200% over 5 years, while dealer networks struggle with new inventory priced beyond what the market will bear. Some manufacturers have quietly begun returning to simpler designs, though few will publicly acknowledge the strategic error that created this situation. The smart money movement has accelerated as knowledgeable riders recognize what's happening. We're seeing experienced motorcyclists hoarding parts for discontinued models, ensuring their long-term viability. Investment groups have begun systematically purchasing clean, low-mileage examples of our highlighted models, recognizing their appreciation potential. International markets now pay premium prices for U.S. market bikes, creating a global demand that further drives value increases. Industry leadership changes are occurring in response to these market signals. Engineering teams are regaining influence over marketing departments at several major manufacturers. Warranty periods are extending as companies compete on reliability rather than feature lists. Aftermarket parts suppliers are filling gaps for discontinued models, recognizing the substantial market that exists for these machines. The new hierarchy of value is clear in the pricing data. Suzuki SV650 OOES that once sold for $3,500 now routinely command $6,500 plus for clean examples. Honda ST1300 OOES, particularly those from police fleets with documented maintenance, fetch premium prices despite high mileage. Kawasaki KLR650 from the 2008 to 2018 generation have seen price increases approaching 150% for well-maintained examples. Yamaha FZ6 have experienced a buying frenzy driven partly by their advantageous insurance classification. When we examine why these 4 models in particular have thrived while others faded, several common factors emerge. Each represents engineering excellence prioritized over marketing considerations. The V-twin balance of the SV650 eliminated the need for power-robbing balance shafts. The ST1300's longitudinal V4 configuration provided exceptional smoothness without complex compensatory systems. The KLR650's single-cylinder simplicity enabled field repairs virtually anywhere. The FZ6's detuned Supersport engine delivered reliability alongside performance. The simplicity advantage cannot be overstated. All 4 models feature mechanical systems that have proven to outlast their electronic alternatives. Their global parts availability contrasts sharply with the proprietary component dependency of newer designs. Perhaps most importantly, they remain largely user-serviceable rather than dealer-dependent, providing an ownership experience increasingly rare in modern motorcycling. The hidden value proposition extends far beyond purchase price. Insurance savings alone can offset significant price differences over a few years of ownership. Maintenance costs running 60 to 70% lower than modern equivalents translate to thousands in savings over the ownership period. Most significantly, their stable or appreciating resale values protect the owner's investment rather than eroding it. The timing factor may be the most critical element for current buyers to understand. These machines were built during peak engineering periods before cost-cutting mandates became industry standard. They were discontinued before planned obsolescence became the norm. And they remain available now, though in dwindling numbers, before collectors drive prices beyond practical reach. So here's what this comes down to. For decades, the motorcycle industry trained us to chase electronic features, while the data shows mechanical excellence is what creates lasting value. Smart riders looking at the hard numbers found these 4 motorcycles transformed from budget options to investment-grade machines hiding in plain sight. The industry won't admit it, but they've forgotten how to build bikes that get better with age instead of becoming technological burdens. What will you choose next? The latest marketing hype or motorcycles with proven financial and mechanical integrity?